Welcome to Community-Based Theater. The pieces you're about to see were written by Cal Poly Pomona students in collaboration with their community partners, members of the Pan-African diaspora, also known as Black, African, and African American people. The pieces seek to accurately represent the truths, perspectives, and experiences that were shared by these lovely individuals from the community. They are presented by the students and often with community partners who inspired and contributed to them. Please enjoy Shades of Beauty, Strength, Magic, and Joy.
Hey guys, this is Christian Holguin
Caleigh Zwahlen.
And this is our final project, which we've labeled 10-Point. The 10-Point project is actually based off of the 10-Point program, or the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense 10-Point program, platform and program, which is the guidelines to a Black Panther Party and states their ideals and ways of operation. Many of the partners that we actually worked for in the community that we were working with expressed the fact that they didn't see basically ethnic or people of color being represented as much as white people in basic like comics or television. So we decided to actually take that step forward and start representing them in this project that we have. So we thought it would be perfect to use the Black Panther's 10-Point program as the building blocks to our own project, because the Black Panther movement basically adjusted, the Black Panther movement basically addressed these problems. And yeah. Do you want to?
Yeah, well, I'll start. I really liked the process. I love like superhero things. I love the different comics. I like watching it. So it was really fun to get to create like backgrounds for everyone. And we really wanted to address all the things that all the partners said. We felt like it was important to give all of them representation because all of the issues that they brought up were, ones that were important and ones that needed to be seen and talked about. So I just enjoyed getting to really see their, expressions when they saw the drawings or when they heard the stories or when they really felt like they were seen and heard. That was something that was really impactful for me and I think probably was my favorite part. Your turn.
That was high key also my favorite part. Yeah, just being able to like see the joy on people's faces as I represented them and their truths in basic like comic book or anime form, because that's a lot of them expressed that like they really enjoyed watching these things on TV and they saw themselves in these characters. So I wanted to actually bring them into these characters. So yeah.
Okay, so the first one we did was Samia, and her superhero name is the Juggernaut. And her description is that she was a product of Project Juggernaut developed in the 1990s. The United States military created a serum that enhanced the human senses and physical power. 12 of the country's highest performing military personnel were chosen to be injected with this serum, and only 4 survived. Of the 4, Samia became the highest performing test subject by being able to reach speeds upwards of 150 miles per hour, jump at heights of 70 feet, and lift upwards of 3.5 tons. Although she is very powerful, she is still susceptible to death by harmful inflictions. She is also immune to diseases, and her aging process is extremely delayed. For example, if Samia were to reach the age of 1,000, she would only have aged 25 years. The U.S. has agreed to allow Samia to work with the agency for the past 10 years, and she has been a very valuable asset. So our second agent is Valynsia, aka Nova. It is believed that Nova is somewhere around 4.5 billion years old. Nova has been depicted throughout human history as being the creation of life itself, similar to the god Ra in Egyptian culture, or Apollo in Greek mythology. Nova has the ability to manipulate nuclear energy and masses that could range anywhere from subatomic to 10 times the size of the sun. It is known by our agency that there is a good chance her powers actually created the sun we see today. Our last known contact with Nova was July 13th, 1977, when the agency attempted to contact her in order to recruit her. So our next agent is Valynsia, aka Nova. It is depicted that Nova is somewhere around 4.5 billion years old. Nova has been depicted throughout human history as being the creation of life itself, similar to the god Ra in Egyptian culture or Apollo in Greek mythology. Nova has the ability to manipulate nuclear energy in masses that could range in size anywhere from subatomic to 10 times the size of the sun. It is known by our agency that there is a good chance her powers actually created the sun we see today. Our last known contact with Nova was July 13th, 1977, when the agency attempted to contact Nova in order to recruit her. However, our contact effort was unsuccessful. This was also around the time we believe Nova accidentally attracted too much energy and caused the New York City blackout of 1977. After this incident, her whereabouts became unknown, and there has been no further communication since. However, the agency is still hopeful we can recruit her sometime in the future. So our next agent is Roslyn, aka Lux. Roslyn was born in Cook County, Chicago, and discovered her ability when she was 6 years old after shopping with her mother in a Target. Roslyn was able to convince her usually strict mother to buy her 6 different toys without her mother even raising an eyebrow. After this, Roslyn began noticing that her mind was an extremely powerful tool. All throughout elementary, junior high, and high school, Roslyn would use her abilities to her advantage by basically getting everything she ever wanted out of everyone. But this left her feeling unfulfilled, so she began using her powers to fight any injustice that happened across her path. However, due to being a regular high school civilian, the injustices she was able to solve were relatively minor. Yet, in high school, she discovered her drama class and soon used her abilities to become the most influential performer in her entire school. After a while, she was able to climb the entertainment industry and a few years later became the highest paid actress in the world. With her newfound platform and powers, she was able to strongly encourage people to pay attention to the world's major injustices that she wasn't able to fix as a high schooler. The abilities we have noticed in her so far are telepathy, persuasion, and telekinesis.
Action.
So our next agent is Todd, aka Clockwork. He first came on our radar when there was an incident of a man running around in a Target parking lot, spouting sparks from his body in January of 2020. Our agents picked him up and placed him in one of our containment facilities. It was discovered by our intelligence team that he had been a former worker for the Pentagon on a specialty team designed to create particle beam weapons in 2005. The Pentagon was also working on an attempt to teleport humans through time and space. In June of 2005, while attempting to clean the machines were turned on and Todd was struck by the beams. At 23 years of age, Todd was presumed dead as his body was thought to have been evaporated during the accident. What no one knew was that Todd had just been zapped to the year 1995 for 10 years, in which he discovered his new abilities to move through time. Todd didn't realize his genetic code had also been altered until he had a child while in a different time period, who inherited abilities from him. This child was named Jasmine and eventually joined the agency and became known as Vortex. Todd ended up in that parking lot in 2020 by accidentally zapping forward with his daughter on a mission to test out their abilities. So our next agent is Jasmine, aka Vortex. Jasmine was born in 1998, 3 years after her father was sent back in time. When Jasmine turned 7, her father discovered that she could transport between the dimensional plane, much like her ability to transport through time. After this discovery, Jasmine, who was already gifted in understanding math, found herself with a strong and growing passion for physics as well, and used this to help harness a better understanding of her ability. As she grew up, her father and her trained together to not only enhance their abilities, but also to train themselves in different fighting forms such as wrestling and boxing. This physical training was necessary to strengthen their bodies to protect them from the strain that comes with traveling through time and space, as well as giving them a way to fight against whatever they may find in different times and dimensions. This training also became one of the most useful resources in the 10-Point Project, as the two now work together to train the other members in the 10-Point Project in fighting close combat with enemy forces. Our next agent is Caleb, aka Pulse. He was the first member of the 10-Point Project and was discovered at only 3 years old while investigating a magnetic storm occurring in Washington, D.C. 12 hours after the electronic devices began fritzing, we discovered large pulses of energy coming from a house in the suburbs. After investigating, we discovered the child had the ability to manipulate the electronic energies that are emitted from objects used in everyday life. By harnessing this power, Caleb was able to create large energy waves that can do anything from disturb an electronic's ability to work to dismantle whole bridges by collecting the energy and releasing it in one ginormous shockwave. He's been a member of the 10-Point Project since he was 5 years old and was the first person to inspire the idea of the project. Our next agent is Erika, aka Echo. When she was growing up, she noticed that those around her would always seem to feel the same way she felt herself, whether it was happy, sad, or angry. However, she always brushed it off, that is, until high school came around. During this time, she began noticing that her mood would spread throughout the entire classroom and even affect the teacher. She began practicing with rapidly switching her emotions and realized that the switches would be reflected as well. She began using this ability to help her friends and family whenever they were upset or anxious by giving herself, and therefore them, a sense of calm. She continued to use her powers in a small way until college, when she was brought to our attention after an unusual incident involving a bank robbery, when two men with masks began crying as they were robbing the bank. Noticing this, Erika tried to persuade the robbers to feel guilty by making herself feel that way, and only a few seconds later, the two men had asked someone to call the police to turn themselves in. We have concluded that while the start of her powers required her to feel the emotion in herself to echo it onto others, she has now evolved to be able to project any emotion onto another just by thinking of the emotion she wishes to be echoed onto the other person. So our next agent is Jeffrey, aka Mimic. Jeffrey was born with his superpower and realized it very early on in his life. When he was 9 years old, his mother took him to the barber to get a haircut, namely to cut off his rat tail. Jeffrey absolutely hated the trip and the haircut and spent the whole day focused on growing back the hair that had been cut. As the next day came around, Jeffrey looked in the mirror and smiled as his rat tail had grown back exactly as it was before. His mother, after realizing this, took him back to the barber and got it cut, only to have the same thing happen. After a third haircut, his mother realized that her son was special. And as the years passed, Jeffrey would watch people on TV and would find himself looking just like his favorite characters for a second before reverting back to himself. By the time he hit high school, Jeffrey had a good grasp on his ability, but wished he could use it for bigger and better things. This became a reality when he came to our agency after hearing rumors of a superhuman group that was being formed to help fight injustices around the world. Using Jeffrey's ability has been an irreplaceable asset to the agency. Our next agent is Ajouraye, aka Atlantis. When Ajouraye was 10 years old, her family decided to take a trip to the beach for the very first time. While at the beach, Ajouraye began to swim with her mother. However, when her mother turned around to grab her camera from the bags on land, Ajouraye was swept under a wave and taken away by the current. While unable to reach for the surface and retrieve some air, Ajouraye noticed a woman swimming below her. The woman swam closer and closer, and as soon as she touched Ajouraye's cheek, Ajouraye passed out and immediately received a lucid vision from her deceased father. She awoke to find herself in the hospital bed alongside her distraught mother. Eyewitness reports of the incident informed us that Ajouraye had gently washed up on shore, and while she was unconscious, her breathing was perfectly fine. After this event, Ajouraye developed a fear of water for several months and did her best to avoid large bodies of it. However, while at a family party, a younger cousin accidentally pushed her into the pool. As she stumbled in, the water parted and left her lying on the bottom of the pool completely dry. Upon seeing this, her grandmother pulled her aside and began explaining their lineage and how Ajouraye's family has a special connection to the West African water spirits, or Orisha. And when she almost died under the ocean currents, they had chosen to imbue her with the ability to heal wounds and manipulate water in all forms in order to help protect her in the future. Ajouraye began using these abilities by joining her local health clinics to diminish the mortality rate to almost 0%. Along with this, she joined forces with all different kinds of organizations and worked tirelessly to help reduce pollution in oceans and rivers and reverse the damages that had been done to them over time. When the agency heard about Ajouraye, we picked her up and offered her the opportunity to help fight unjust forces alongside us in the 10-Point Project. Ajouraye now acts as our main source of defensive protection on dangerous missions, as well as helping us in missions dealing with literal uncharted waters.